protect the red pill.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
The disastrous rise of misplaced power exists.
All we have built, all we have worked for, would be destroyed.
There is nothing the political establishment will not do.
And this nation will not be fully free until all its citizens are free.
Our arms must be mighty, ready for instant action,
These criminals cannot be rewarded.
so that no potential aggressor may be tempted to risk his own destruction.
There is a point beyond which they must not advance.
They're coming after you, and I'm just standing in their way. Here I am.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny.
The cost of freedom is always high.
Those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
This is a crusade! This is a holy war against the deep state!
We never wanted to be right, but yet things are all adding up to the firestorm.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. But I do ask every publisher, every editor, and every newsman in the nation to re-examine his own standards and to recognize the nature of our country's peril. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. It conducts the Cold War, in short, with a wartime discipline no democracy would ever hope or wish to match.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're in the world. My name is Josh. Welcome to the Red Pill Project's Daily Dose, live with you Monday through Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is where we bring you that unfolding global conspiracy. And a conspiracy it is. I hope everybody is doing well out there. I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend and getting ready for Turkey Day this week here in the United States. This is Thanksgiving week, so I hope everybody is getting ready to travel to family or do whatever you do. Myself and my family are heading out to New York State from Minnesota. So Minnesota to New York State, driving over the night tomorrow night. and spending Thanksgiving with my family out there. So it's going to be a good time. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing my brothers, my mom, and the rest of my family. And it's that time of year where we start to be with family, give thanks, celebrate the good victories, right? The good victories. That's what we're talking about right now. Kind of an interesting weekend, more war rhetoric going on. The world is absolutely on the brink, and something that I've been warning about for many, many years. And now we're seeing the everything come to fruition. A few things about this week that I'll get off the plate while as we get started. Number one is that I will be traveling tomorrow. So tomorrow's show will be recorded and it will be played at normal time. And that is going to be another simulcast with myself and Alpha Warrior. And our guest this time is General Michael Flynn. So General Michael Flynn, myself and Alpha Warrior. Last week we had Patrick Byrne. This week we have Michael Flynn. It is going to be one hell of a conversation, I assure you that. Especially with kind of revelations that we've had, a lot of what's going on. So hope you enjoy that show. Wednesday night and Thursday night, no show, but there will definitely be streams playing. And then Friday night, streams playing, Saturday night. But if you are subscribed to our premium content, you will get the daily briefs. So make sure that I will be doing daily briefs probably every day this week since I will not be doing shows. So make sure you are subscribed to that. The best place to subscribe to the daily briefs, Social Red Pill, obviously our private social network. You can find them there. Excuse me. The other one is our Substack, redpillproject.substack.com. I actually just published a new article on there this last weekend. And so it's the deep state is not defeated yet. You can go find that on there, as well as a new daily brief last night. So if you guys want to get in on the daily briefs, get our articles and periodicals that we publish, go check that out. I have not posted this one to social media, I don't think. So it's if you haven't been to our Substack, it's new. You can go check it out and read it. I think it's a pretty damn good read. It's about what is unfolding right now and the potentials of what can unfold and happen. And then the other place, if you are just on Rumble and you want to go to locals, that is the easiest place to go ahead and subscribe to get the premium content that we do there. But Social Red Pill, probably the best place. Our Substack is the second best place. I mean, everything you get on Substack, you can get on Social Red Pill as well, because we're now doing our Zooms extended out to our locals and our Substack community. And then if anybody is interested as well, there is another thing that I am doing right now. I put out an email today in a social media post. It is our crypto masterminds. So we have crypto masterminds on Social Red Pill. You have to be a member of Social Red Pill, and then you go inside, you go to the group section, you scroll down the crypto mastermind, and it's going to give you subscription options. Easier than just get the triple star one. But you can do the crypto mastermind, which is Sundays. Or I'm actually offering one-on-one crypto consultations. I've had a few people request it over the last few weeks with crypto booming now. I'm going to talk a little bit about crypto towards the end because I think it's important. I know that a lot of people are still anti-crypto and all that stuff. That's fine. It doesn't mean that you cannot benefit on the upside of cryptocurrency. And then also I spec my mic. There's one thing that I wanted to introduce to everybody. This is something that is new for us here at the Red Pill Project. It is something that we had a long time ago, and I just wasn't happy with the quality of the stuff that we had on there and everything that we had on there. So we got some designers, we redesigned it, we rebuilt it out, and so now we have the Red Pill merch store. If you have not checked this out, please do. You can go on there. We have some limited edition content that you can only find for a limited time. That is a Trump fuck you hat. I call it the Golden Dawn. Then we have kind of like these ones. The best is yet to come with Donald Trump's signature. You kind of have it in red, white, and blue. We have a few other products in here, 45, 47 hoodies. We got t-shirts. But most of all, we have Red Pill Project content. So you can find in there your Red Pill Project shirts and hoodies. Right there, Red Pill Project, and help promote everything that we do. If you guys are looking for that link to get to the Red Pill Project shop, it's really easy. So I'm going to put it up here, right here for you, and you can visit it here. And it does have a Black Friday deal going on. And that's easy right there. Boom. Shop.redpills.tv. Shop.redpills.tv. You can go check that out. I wanted to get that out there. We're kind of officially launching it this week. So I wanted to get that out to everybody. But let's jump into the mess of everything of what is going on right now in the world. I wrote this blog yesterday, this Substack. The Substack is called "The Deep State is Not Defeated Yet." Now, I said America is united once again. No, it's not. Actually, we're more divided than ever before. And General Flynn had actually posted on X yesterday. This was what I was in the process of actually writing this. And General Flynn posted on X this post right here. And the truth is, the deep state cannot afford to allow President Trump to implement his plans to reform America. Scenarios of frustrate assassination, conventional resistance, violent resistance, provoking wars, false flag war. In this longer than normal op-ed below, he posted for his Substack. He briefly states the DNI DHS threats, personal threat assessment of the situation, and analyze the 5 scenarios below to offer a so what. He is highly accurate in everything that he's saying here. Number one is the thing that you have to understand right here. The truth is the deep state cannot afford President Trump to implement his plans to reform America. What does that sound like? They cooed the 2020 election, people. They are never, they did that with no intention to ever give back power again, which means that they will scorch this earth before they ever do. And this is what I've been talking about, as in the firestorm, for the last 4 years. Now, other people are saying the same thing. And possible scenarios: assassination, conventional resistance, violent resistance, provoking war, false flag war. I kind of group provoking war and false flag war in the same context. And the reason I do that is because the war has already been provoked. The war has already been provoked. I mean, what we're seeing right now on the landscape of Eastern Europe with Russia, NATO, and the West is NATO is trying to provoke war with Russia. In my opinion, Russia is baiting NATO. They're trying to get NATO to do a preemptive strike on Russia, whether it's through the utilization of tactical nuclear weapons or any type of nuclear weapon, or it is just a NATO bombardment from a NATO nation into Poland, into Russia, whatever it might be. The reason being is I believe that Russia is going to immediately pull back, play the diplomacy card, and make the West, NATO, and the U.S. look like absolute fools on the international global stage. What this is going to lead to is a dissolution of NATO. So I think that this is kind of Putin's plan. He is playing the tough guy. He is absolutely standing strong. And Russia will have a strong advantage in this war if this does go kinetic. And I'll talk about that here in a little bit. If it goes nuclear, there is no winners, people. There absolutely is no winners. Going into the various different 5-point plays that General Flynn and I talk about here, I didn't really, I went over his assessment. I went into more detail. I talked about another Donald Trump assassination. But one thing I noticed when writing this blog post, this Substack article. So guys, listen, if you like to read, this is a really good article. I'm a decent writer. I believe so anyway. But if you can go check this article out, I highly urge it. And the reason I say that is because, number one, it goes under the psychological basis of what is happening. If you didn't read it, there's a blog post on our Substack called "The Systematic Destruction of the Old Guard." It is for our premium subscribers on there, but it's incredibly well written, pertaining to the psychological warfare and how this has been perpetuated and how it acts upon the psychological archetypes that manifest within culture and society. But I go into the psychological aspect of things, and then I talk about all the rhetoric that's going back and forth with Russia, the West, and the United States. But then I go in the General Flynn threat assessment, and then I start talking about assassination. Then I start talking about conventional resistance, possible scenarios, violent resistance, possible scenarios, World War III, and then my conclusion. My conclusion is quite interesting because something happened when I was writing this. I began to see a trend forming, whether it was the attempted assassination of President-elect Donald Trump or President Donald Trump, whether it was conventional resistance, which is done in the sense of contingent elections, January 6th, stepping in, these types of things. And I'll explain these in detail here in a second. There was a trend that occurred. Now, let me go through each one of them, okay? And I want to go through each one of them, primarily the conventional and then resistance, violent resistance. But if they attempted to assassinate Donald Trump, there's a certain set of scenarios that would come about. If they were successful, there is a line that they have to follow. If they are unsuccessful, well, it's hell or high water for these people. So I think that route right there is the most implausible. And I say it's implausible because the reaction from the MAGA community, from his movement, is going to be so overwhelming that they wouldn't be able to stop it. And you got to remember, they tried in Butler, Pennsylvania. They knew the consequences. They went through with it anyway. That means they had a plan from the fallout, from the blowback of that operation. So they have a contingency plan for when they do something like that. So it's still a scenario, but I would put that at like 50-50. And that comes about as kind of like last case scenario of the narrative that we're seeing formed right now. Conventional resistance. This is where it kind of gets interesting because you got to ask yourself, do the Democrats actually have any plays, with legal action that they can take? Well, a lot of what we've been seeing is rhetoric from at least July to current day, talking about Russia. Rhetoric about Russia. Rhetoric that Trump colluded with Russia again to steal the election. So that is in the airwaves. More importantly, I talked about the aspect of a contingent election using the 14th Amendment, not the 14th Amendment, the 13th Amendment, to utilize a contingent election process. This occurs when certain states withhold their electors and they do not send them to Congress prior to the deadline date, which is around December 24th. What this does is it reduces the number of electors from the overall total. Now, if that number is like lacking 10 or 20, it's not a big deal. But if it's lacking the majority, it becomes a problem. So I want you to think about this for a minute. They have till about approximately December 24th to submit their electors. All the blue states do. Now, the scenario that I brought about was that if the election was stolen from Donald Trump, he could utilize this contingent election process to have red states withhold their electors. And then what happens is that it will reduce the amount of electors that Kamala would have actually have gotten, giving Donald Trump the potential majority of which he could have been elected president. Well, here's the thing. They can withhold all the blue state electors, okay? Which drops the overall majority from 535 down to below 50% of that number, which means now you have a problem. Now you have a contingent election that breaks off and would have to occur in that place. But also it would be a 10th Amendment state protest or 10th Amendment state coup in and around that time frame. Now, we could actually see this process arise because of the amount of outspoken governors and mayors that we're seeing in blue states that are not going to comply with Donald Trump's immigration laws and the deportation of millions upon millions of illegal immigrants. Now, all they have to do in order to express their 10th Amendment anger towards Donald Trump is withhold their electors from actually reporting to Congress to be certified. With that being happen, the number of electors drops significantly below that 270 threshold. Actually, it would drop roughly down to about 135. That 135 electors is not 50% of the majority, which means that it would automatically go to a contingent election. Now, I'm assured that in a contingent election scenario, Congress would absolutely approve those electors for Donald Trump, and he would be elected president no matter what. But under protest, what you would see is you could even see Congress or the Senate filibuster the contingent election process, or potentially even go in there to, because you gotta remember, they form in House delegates. So it's Senate and Congress together forming into 50 House delegates, each with one vote. And so you'll have New York State would be the senators and the congressmen from New York State. They vote, and then that's one vote for New York State. They could filibuster that process. Not only that, is that you could have the Democrat congressmen and Democrat senators abstain from those votes or try to block that vote, which delays that process beyond that December 24th timeframe, even potentially past January 6th timeframe, past January 20th timeframe. Basically, impeding in the process of bringing about the certification of the election. That is a very big possibility. Now, if that happened with the states rising up saying we're withholding our electors, what you would see is immediately you would see the either violent resistance or conventional resistance rise up during this point in time. And this is obviously the George Floyd type of riots within the liberal cities. And this is where shit would start to hit the proverbial fan. Okay? So we know that they would start bringing about busloads of George Soros-sponsored, mentally insane liberals, Antifa, so forth. They'd be getting off the bus. They'd be burning down cities. This would be happening nationwide, primarily in these blue states that are in protest against the election results. And this would lead to a certain scenario. And obviously, we could see illegal immigrants joining in, Venezuelan gangs, Hezbollah Unit 910, Chinese military males, all of this joining into that on any one of these processes. Because if Donald Trump was potentially assassinated, which I hope to God never happens, you're going to see the same outflow. You're going to see the right rise up and begin protesting their governments and asking for answers. And then you're going to have a contingent left that's going to rise up in antithesis of that. And you're going to have battlefronts being drawn, and you're going to have riots and protests. So all of this kind of leads to the same type of scenario. So whether it's the violent resistance, conventional resistance, or the assassination, they all lead to these protests, mass protests, and then the protests actually turning violent. The last scenario is World War III, or provoked war, or false flag war. Now, with this scenario, I think that this is inevitable. I think that NATO is going to do something stupid here in the near future, and they are going to try to preemptively strike Russia on some so-said intelligence that they had that Russia was going to preemptive strike them, so they preemptive strike Russia. Some bullshit like this. That is going to happen. Putin has already said, I will mirror everything that you do, tit for tat. Exactly what I said weeks ago. He's going to tit for tat. If a NATO country attacks Russia, though, it's going to be a tit for tat. I don't think, actually, if NATO nation strikes Russia, Russia is not going to respond militarily. Okay? Russia is going to stand up and say, nope, sorry. Let's go to the Security Council, emergency meeting. Why the hell did NATO just bomb us? What the hell is going on? We did not attack them. We did not touch them. Their intelligence is wrong. And then through international channels, everything will be delayed, immediately ceasefire, and that will be progressed until after January 20th, where Donald Trump will come in and solve the problem and eventually leave NATO, which will be devastating for Europe. And this is why we're going to see in a second, Europe is preparing for war because they have no other option. And most likely Europe would continue to follow through with those actions, but I believe the United States would abstain from everything else forward from that once Russia goes to the International Security Council. So we have those scenarios that could potentially come out. Here is the one trend that nobody is talking about, nobody is seeing it, and it is the one, quote unquote, legal path for the left, the Obama deep state, the Democrats to seize power. And it's the one thing that comes about in every single one of these scenarios. If they assassinate Donald Trump, if there's conventional resistance where they do the blue state coup, or if they do the congressional coup, if they do that, if it's violent resistance in the street, the city's burning, or if it's World War III. There's one thing, and it happens in every single one of these scenarios. And it's called coup cog, continuity of government. See, in any of these scenarios, assassination of Donald Trump, conventional resistance, or violent resistance, what you're going to have is law enforcement overwhelmed, National Guard called up, and they're not going to be able to respond fast enough. It's going to grow too fast. The violence is going to be too great. They're going to have to declare martial law. From martial law declaration, there's going to be a direct threat upon the federal government with the potential for governmental collapse, and this is going to initiate coup and cog, continuity of government processes, of which the president at the time, which will just be a surrogate of Barack Obama, is allowed to go into his little folder and pull out presidential emergency action documents. Now, contrary to what you believe about presidential emergency action documents and coup cog, when a PED is initiated, a PED is just a classified executive order. It means it's a blanket executive order that has certain things in there already prescribed through law. When it's initiated, the president brings it out, he signs it and sends it to Congress and the Supreme Court, but really doesn't give a shit. But it's made public because that declaration has to be public. That's one of the big problems with a lot of people that talk about coup cog these days. They're not talking about the public declaration that actually has to go. It becomes public record. So, by a swipe of a pen, war powers are initiated and continuity of government process begins, which means that in the continuity of government framework through the presidential emergency documents, which are classified, we don't really know what's in them, but we know somewhat what's in them. One of the processes in the sense of the devolution of government revolves around the suspension of Congress and Senate, the suspension of the legal systems, the implementation of a military legal system through martial law. And lastly, no new appointments to office until the emergency is resolved, which means it's one pen fell swoop clear of a coup. In every single one of these scenarios, from World War III to Donald Trump potentially being assassinated, riots in the street, all of them align directly to coup cog, continuity of government. Every single one of them. Every single one of them. So, the potential that we see in the sense of the deep state's last chance to preserve their power, to go in and secure power once and for all, is some type of national/global crisis that is going to allow the initiation of classified executive orders and war powers that bring about a continuity of government, a de-evolution from Washington, D.C., a suspension of Congress and Senate, a suspension of habeas corpus, martial law, as well as the temporary dictatorial powers of the president executive branch. Now, how do we know that this is what they're going to do? Guys, look at Ukraine. Immediately when Putin started his special military campaign in Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky, or Vladimir, whatever the fuck his name is, Zelensky, initialized his continuity of government. The first thing that he did is he arrested all political descendants, anybody he believed to be supporting Russia in his country, especially his Congress, his parliament. He arrested and detained them. Then he went out to business owners, to the oligarchs, arrested them if they did business in Russia. The majority of those business owners, those oligarchs, their land was seized and transferred to pro-Zelensky oligarchs, and a lot of them committed suicide unwillingly. So think about this. And since then, he has suspended every single election during this national emergency that Ukraine is under. This is the same MO. This is the same scenario of what they are going to play out. I assure you. The reason I assure you this is because they don't have very many other options. They are very, very spread thin on the different things that they can do. They can hope that in 2 years they can regain the House and the Senate. and that they can fight Donald Trump that way and try to impeach him and remove him from office, 25th Amendment him, that's a potential that they're hoping. We only have to wait 2 years. They can take it, let it go, and say, look, we'll win in 4 more years. Trump will be out of the way. Not a big deal. But the radical change that is going to come in just 1 year is going to be too much for the deep state to handle. What do I mean by that? The Department of Government Efficiency is quite literally going to go in and trim every single ounce of fat off of every single departmental executive department. What does that mean? See, one of the reasons the deep state has been able to last so long and have its infrastructure so tightly knit that in 2016, when Donald Trump comes in, you can't find these people because they are so widespread throughout government. Because they utilize a process of replication. See, they create one department, then they create another department. And then inside these departments, they replicate the same job positions that have the same levels of authority and jurisdiction. And then they spider web that out in the sense of various different compartmentalizations, aspects of power and control. What Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are going to go do is they are going to go look at the spider web. They're going to take the center of the web and they're just going to trim everything around it and let it drop off. Critical, essential positions will immediately stay. You remember when Elon Musk took over Twitter? What did he do? Anybody who had non-critical positions, gone immediately. First day. First day on the job, see ya, get the fuck out. Anybody who had critical positions, he kept them on board, learned their jobs, had those jobs be adopted by other departments. Once those departments could do those jobs, see ya, goodbye. That's what's going to happen to the U.S. federal government under Musk and Ramaswamy. And that is going to happen within the first year. Immediately, the Department of Education, goodbye. Okay? DOJ, FBI, DHS, ATF, all going to be centralized into one federal law enforcement agency, which is going to be just dismantled among it all. All 18 U.S. intelligence agencies centralized into one or maybe two intelligence agencies, apparatuses. This is what they're going to do. They're going to cut 80 to 85% of everything that is happening. But that's not spending. Spending means employees. They're going to cut all of these employee jobs. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of unemployed people. Too fucking bad. Guess what? We don't need this large government. This is why Democrats love large government, because it allows them to build their deep state infrastructure deeply nested within the U.S. federal government. Once you begin to trim all that away, they know it doesn't even matter if they're a deep state actor. They're gone. So now all you deal with is maybe a few hundred employees in one department, a few hundred employees in this department. Now it's easy to find out who's leaking information. Now it's easy to find out who's weaponizing their power over other people, policies, so forth. And this is what's going to happen within the first year. So the Democrats really can't wait 2 years. They definitely can't wait 4 years, because within 4 years, they're going to completely transform the face of the United States government to the point where globalism as you know it will be dead. Their whole globalist agenda that they worked for over the last 100 years is going to be dead in the water. The reason being is because the United States of America is still one of the top critical keystone components of the global economy. And what's going to happen when the United States of America goes out there and joins BRICS and then starts bringing about a policy measure of we will not do business with any country, organization, institution that is supporting DEI. That means that all of those NGOs, NPOs, all of those organizations, all of those large financial institutions, every single one of them immediately have to drop their DEI. This is why you're seeing it happen all over the place amongst institutions in the U.S. They're all getting rid of DEI. So within 4 years, it's going to be unrecognizable from what it is today. With that being said, the Democrats can't wait. They have to do something before January 20th. The only strategy that they have before January 20th are the ones that we just listed there. False flag or provoked war. You have conventional or violent resistance, and then you have assassinations. Those are the 5 things. And every single one of those lead to a legal process of which they can secure power through continuity of government. It's Zevia, people. It's okay. I'm still healthy. So, important information to understand where we're at, where we're going, and what's potentially going to happen. Now, General Flynn posted this on X, and I know I'm posting a lot, but we're going to have him on tomorrow. So I think that it's important that we're talking a little bit about his thoughts here. He posted this meme, Dr. Ron Paul. World War III started on 11/22/63 when JFK was assassinated by our government. He's absolutely right. World War III is the war being fought not between the United States and Russia, but between the American people, the people of this world, and the globalists who are seeking to bring about a one world government. Now, I found it kind of interesting. There's been some classified documents or unclassified documents that were unclassified a few years back pertaining to the JFK assassination. These were probably the ones declassified under Donald Trump in 2017, 2018. Within them is a letter directly to, I believe it's the one of the ambassadors. And what it is, it's from the leader of the Palestinian state in the Middle East. And he claims that JFK was assassinated by the Zionists. And the reason he was assassinated by the Zionists was because JFK was unwilling to arm Israel, to provide Israel a common defense, to give them nuclear weapons, to give them armaments to produce the Iron Dome. And that they wanted a regime change in the United States so that they could have that and progress their war at the time against Egypt and take over more Palestine. Now, that's kind of interesting because if that was true, now it brings context to the Q boards. The reason I say that, think about this. If I asked you when the Q stuff began, JFK's gravesite, his memorial, it's a big old Q. It started with the assassination of John F. Kennedy. That's when the Q stuff began. We know that. When patriots in our country who are in the military or within government realized something was going on, we got to fight back and we're being infiltrated. That's when it started. When does it end? When does the Q stuff end? The last. What's the last? Save Israel for last. Starts with JFK, ends with Save Israel for last. Take with that what you may, but I find that highly interesting. News today, Joe Biden will attend the inauguration of President Donald Trump. It's going to be epic, people. Again, by the way, if you are wanting to go to Washington, D.C. for the inauguration, first thing you need to do is write your congressman and senator. You can go to their websites, you go to tickets and events, and you submit requests for tickets for the presidential inauguration. I have a request out to my senator and my congressman for tickets. I will be at the inauguration one way, shape, or form or another on January 20th. If I don't get tickets, I have another way to get there. So we are planning on having an event, Red Pill Project meetup. I think Alpha's planning on going. There's going to be probably quite a few other ones of us. We're going to have an event. So it's not necessarily planned at the moment, but we're going to have an event. So if you can get to Washington, D.C. on January 20th, 2025, let's do it. This is going to be one of the most historical moments in human history. So let's all get there. I want to see you there. So hopefully you can come. Start with some good news, I guess. We just went through the doom and gloom. We're about to get into some more doom and gloom. Special counsel Jack Smith requested today that all charges against Donald Trump be dropped in the Washington, D.C. case over his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Now, isn't that interesting? New York Judge Juan Merchan has allowed former President Donald Trump to seek the dismissal of his hush money criminal case against his case following his victory as president. I've been saying it. They're all going to disappear. Why? Either they're covering their ass and they have a very limited time frame to cover their ass before the next administration comes in, which means that if they progressed all of this stuff into December and then January, there's a preservation of records that they didn't destroy under the Biden administration that now are going to be subpoenaed by Congress and the Trump administration. So best to get it done now, lock it up, get rid of it, burn the fucking boat, right? Or the Democrats are planning something. They got something up their sleeve. They're making Donald Trump think that, oh, you won and you got out scot-free. It's all over. Good luck to you. There's an eerie silence among the Democrats, is there not? There's an eerie silence among the left and Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and all of these people. Makes you wonder what they're planning, what they're really planning. Pam Bondi, the next attorney general, has vowed to begin investigations into the Jeffrey Epstein and the P. Diddy list, as well as Hunter Biden's laptop. Remember those 51 former and current U.S. intelligence experts who went to the media and claimed that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation? When in actuality, they themselves not only deceived the American public and spread disinformation? Yeah. That's election interference. You are going to see something come about from that. That has not come to its fruition yet. You are going to see something come from that. In the other sense of good news, listen to this one. Georgia's 26 public colleges and universities are set to ban DEI initiatives across the board and will teach students using the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Federalist Papers, and the founding documents. What? What? That's crazy. There's another university. The University of Austin, Texas, is swapping out their DEI policies, diversity, equity, inclusion, with MEI, merit, excellence, and intelligence. Holy shit. Sounds pretty damn smart, doesn't it? Now, we're beginning to see a lot of resistance. And I talked about this in the conventional resistance aspect. Democrats have been silent, but there's another aspect of the silence, is that we're seeing low-hanging fruit governors and mayors begin to speak out. Let's listen to this.
Oh, the incoming Trump administration vowing mass deportations of immigrants. Colorado officials are vowing to do whatever they can to resist. But Denver Mayor Mike Johnston facing scrutiny after recent comments he made suggesting he would use Denver police to block federal officials from carrying out those mass deportation efforts.
And I fly later today, right? Something to go to an event and right before 12.
What did you mean with the Denver right comment?
I'm so sorry, you guys. He has somewhere to be.
Before we could even turn our camera on, Denver Mayor Mike Johnston was already running away from reporters. We tried asking him about an interview he gave talking about how the city would respond to President-elect Donald Trump's mass deportation plan. The mayor told Denverite the city would resist efforts by federal officials to deport immigrants. More than us having DPD stationed at the county line to keep them out, you would have 50,000 Denverites there, Johnston said, comparing it to a Tiananmen Square moment with the Rose and Gun.
Quite interesting, isn't it? They are already telling you what they're going to do. Well, Tom Homan, the next ICE czar, has responded to these mayors and governors around the country that are coming forth. Listen to what he says here.
Defending our residents every possible way. Well, she's not very smart, I'll give her that. Because what I just said is President Trump's going to prioritize public safety threats. What mayor or governor doesn't want public safety threats out of their communities. I mean, that's her number one responsibility, is to protect her communities. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So she helps us, she gets the hell out of the way, because we're going to do it. And look, there's a clear line here, and they can't cross a clear line. I would suggest she read Title 8, United States Code 1324 III, that says, you know, you can't harbor or conceal an illegal alien from front of law enforcement officers. So I hope she don't cross that line. They can not cooperate, but there are certain laws in place that they can't cross, and I hope she doesn't cross it.
And he hopes she doesn't cross it. Well, that's not the only one. There's another one right here. Let's watch this one.
Leadership that obstructs ICE. Real quickly, what happens to a mayor or local police department chief that is under Democratic leadership that obstructs ICE in your federal agents that are helping get these deportations? What happens to them?
Well, first of all, if they don't want to help us get the hell out of the way, we're going to do it. If I got to send twice the amount of resources to that city, that's what we're going to do. If they would give us access to the jail, that would mean less agents in the community. For them pushing back and not letting us in the jail, it just means more agents are going to be in the community, so they're hurting themselves. Finally, I'll say this. They need to educate themselves. They need to review this. Title 8, United States Code 1324 III. Read about that and don't cross that line, because it is a felony to harbor and conceal an illegal alien from ICE. Read the statute, don't cross that line.
Boom. Not only that, is Donald Trump has vowed to sign executive action pertaining to this, as well as Congress is going to bring about legislation, which will pass the House and pass the Senate and be signed into law. What are those pieces of legislation? Well, number one is the Insurrection Act of 1809, I believe. And then you have the Aliens and Seditions Act. Those two pieces of legislation, which can be enacted by President Donald Trump, will give Tom, the U.S. military, all the authority they need to remove governors and mayors who stand in their way of doing their job. It is literally going to become the fuck around and find out moment. Now, Elon Musk posted a tweet this weekend of "Lead us not into temptation," talking about the buying of MSNBC. So I figured I'd give you a little bit of comic relief and let you watch Rachel Maddow cry on live TV.
To at least 3. Can we put up the graphic of this?
Oh, lead us not into temptation.
I think I'm going to have to hand this off. Yeah. Sorry. That does it for us tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Oh, I'm so hurt by it. Elon Musk could be my new boss. And you want to know what would happen if Elon Musk was Rachel Maddow's new boss? He wouldn't fire her. It would be more torture if he kept her on her contract. But what he would do is he'd make her actually report the news. You imagine Rachel Maddow looking at a teleprompter just telling the news as MSNBC is now reporting it with their bias? It would be brutal. It would be so funny. Now, I got a question. Where is Kamala Harris? Anybody seen Kamala Harris? Anybody? Anybody? Going once, going twice? Bueller. Kamala Harris? Anybody? Nope. Nobody's seen her. Nobody's seen Kamala Harris since the day after the election. What the hell's going on? Hold on, I want to do something real quick. All right. That's what I mean, that there's this eerie sensation or feeling. Where is Kamala Harris? Where is Barack Obama? Where is Joe Biden? What the hell's going on? Guys, they are planning something. And I assure you they are planning something. Now, this is interesting. India had an election recently and counted 640 million votes in one day. California is still counting 15 million votes 18 days later. Now, imagine if California is that first state that doesn't meet the December 24th deadline. They just can't count all their votes fast enough. California also has another problem. Nancy Pelosi's daughter has been on the ground curing ballots with a volunteer army in California. I don't know if you realize this, but in various different states, you can cure ballots if you notice that the ballot has a mistake. Curing ballots means that there was a mistake on a ballot, so that ballot was rejected. Each year, hundreds of thousands of ballots in the United States get rejected. In California, Nancy Pelosi's daughter is leading a grassroots movement through what's known as the Mobilize app to go out there and identify ballots that were rejected and then contact the people on the ballot's name, which, by the way, is probably illegal, and then have them reconcile their ballot. But all of the ballots they're reconciling are Democrat. Huh. Interesting. See how that works? And this has actually flipped 2 U.S. House seats in California from Republican to Democrat. Now, I'm going to go over what's going on in Russia. We're going to talk about Russia, Ukraine, World War III for a little bit here. I'm going to start with a clip from Tucker Carlson. I call this the 59-second truth about Ukraine that no politician or mainstream media pundit will admit. And this is the absolute truth, people. Listen to this shit.
So this is a tweet from me. I don't normally read people's tweets, but in standing with Ukraine, the Biden-Harris administration convinced them, Ukraine, to abandon a peace deal that would have ceded only half of the territory that Russia now occupies. And for that opportunity to lose twice as much of their homeland, they paid with tens of thousands of innocent lives. We did this to control the 11 trillion of minerals under the Donbass. We did it to grind down the Russian war machine on the grist of Ukrainian teenagers. We did it to hand out hundreds of billions of dollars to U.S. hedge funds who are, as we speak, carving up rights to Ukraine's fertile soil and vast mineral resources. The truth is, the United States has never stood with the people of Ukraine. That is simply a jingle, an ad campaign broadcast to those who have never been there, designed to sell taxpayers on the appeal of prolonging war for profit. We have cost Ukraine her territory. We have cost Ukraine her children. The war hawks and the bankers are no friends to Ukraine. Whoa!
Wow. Sounds like a lot of stuff that we talked about on this show for the last few years, huh? The trillions of dollars worth of rare earth minerals throughout all of Ukraine. NATO and the West are prepared to go after those resources in Ukraine and preserve them for their hedge funds, for their banks, for their war hawks, for their IMF loans and globalist banks that, by the way, 6 months ago, the IMF gave $40 billion of loans to Ukraine, which were immediately issued to the Clinton Global Initiative and BlackRock for the rebuilding of Ukraine. 15-minute cities, everybody? C40 cities? Recently, we know about 8 months ago, you had a NATO exercise, Defender 2024 exercise, within Eastern Europe, where they prepped much of their war supplies, talking about 350,000 NATO and U.S. troops that would provide an invasion of Russia. They even talked about preemptive nuclear strikes against Russia if they thought that Russia was going to invade a European nation, which doesn't give any predicate to go out there and nuke them, but hey. With everything rising up last week, Joe Biden's administration gave Zelensky the authority to use U.S. ballistic missiles against Russia. They used the ATACMS missiles. It launched them into Russia. Russia shot down 5 out of 6 of them. The 6th one hit just outside of an arms depot, but did no significant damage. The next day, Zelensky fired the Storm Shadow missiles from the UK, which we saw some damage actually reported within Russia. And I said Russia is going to retaliate, and Russia did retaliate, sending a series of new hypersonic missiles into Ukraine. Now, the one thing that you noticed about these hypersonic missiles, there was no explosion. And there's a reason why there was no explosion to these missiles. Scott Ritter is a former UN's weapons inspector and subject matter expert on all different types of conventional military technology. Listen to what Scott Ritter says here, and I want you to heed his warnings.
But people don't understand what this missile is. This missile is the modern day version of the Skorost. You see, the Russians are building a missile that can be pushed forward and be ready to preempt Dark Eagle, our intermediate missile. The Russians just put the Mark 41 Aegis ashore on notice in Poland. That is a target. The target that will destroy it is this. Look at what this was. This is a missile that makes use of not the YARS, which is what the Rubiej, the RS-26, this is derived from, used the YARS first stage. This uses the GETTR first stage, the Cedar. Now, most people don't know what the Cedar is, but the Ukrainians just came out and said that it's the Cedar. How would they know? Well, they have the debris. And on the debris are serial numbers. And the serial numbers show what the booster was. This is the most modern booster that the Russians have. Similar in size to the R's, so as it doesn't change the configuration of the system, but it has unique solid fuel principles that allow the missile to burn in variable speeds, making it impossible to target. The other thing it does is it doesn't use traditional MIRVs. I keep hearing people say multiple independently targeted warheads. That's not what this was, not at all. This is the new system. The new system is, instead of a bus, a plate, so to speak, where the warheads are attached, that separates from the missile and then comes in and releases the warheads to their target on a trajectory, though, because it's still moving as this happens. What we have now is independent mini missiles that are there, and they fire themselves. So the first stage takes it up, second stage puts it in, and then you fire these independent missiles. And these missiles, each one of them had 6 large submunitions on them. This is where the name hazelnut comes from, because if you look at a hazelnut tree, you look at the pod of nuts, it's exactly what you see with these submunitions coming down. This missile was developed specifically to take out Dark Eagle missile arrays. If you take a look at the layout, the footprint of the Dark Eagle, where the radar is, where the command and communications are, where this missile is designed to annihilate that. People kept saying, where's the explosion? It's not meant to be high explosive. It's meant to be a kinetic kill. And these submunitions come down and they will kinetically kill everything on the ground. These submunitions come down at such velocity that if they hit the Aegis ashore, it will be a smoking hole in the ground. This is what this missile is designed. Putin just put us on notice that he has a conventional missile system that is designed to preempt anything and everything NATO plans on doing to Russia, and there is no NATO response. There's nothing they can do about it. This is literally the equivalent of the most alpha wolf in the world coming in and pissing all over your home. That's what Putin just did, and it didn't have to be this way. Putin said right there, your withdrawal from the INF Treaty was the greatest mistake you have ever made, because now you have compelled us to do this. And here we are. We didn't want to be here, but because of all the provocations you've done, we have checkmated you. And that's the case. I don't think the West has woken up to what has just happened. It is over for the West. The only thing we can do is nuclear war. And sadly, we have somebody who believes that we can have a nuclear exchange. I just, again, want to have people reflect on what that means. It means the Biden administration is ready to sacrifice 100 million Americans for Ukraine. The Biden administration is ready to sacrifice 100 million Americans for Ukraine.
That's fucking powerful, huh? In other words, Scott Ritter said there, is Putin checkmated NATO in one fell swoop that did 0 damage. Those missiles hit nothing. But it was to show them what Putin has. That can annihilate the top of the line missile systems, conventional missile systems that NATO and the West have. They have nothing better than that other than nuclear weapons. That was Putin's fuck around and find out. That was a checkmate. He's absolutely right. Putin just put the U.S. on notice that he has a conventional missile system that is designed to preempt anything and everything NATO plans on doing to Russia, and there is no NATO response. Hence why this week, the last few days, all you've seen, nuclear war, nuclear war, nuclear warheads. I'm not going to play this whole segment. I'm just going to play a little bit of General Flynn on the intro with Alex Jones here.
Advent of World War III, we are in the midst of it. The exchange of very provocative nuclear-capable weapons have already occurred. Alex has done an amazing job over these last couple of weeks.
I'm going to replay that so you can listen to what General Flynn just said there. And this is a gentleman who knows, and I'm going to ask him about this tomorrow.
The advent of World War III, we are in the midst.
You are? I lost connection. Go fucking figure. I want you to listen to what General Flynn says here, okay? Listen very carefully. And this is a gentleman who knows. He's got the connections.
Advent of World War III, we are in the midst of it. The exchange of very provocative nuclear-capable weapons have already occurred.
The exchange of nuclear-capable weapons have already occurred. Did you hear what Flynn just said there?
Alex has done an amazing job over these last couple of weeks, really talking about, and I know we have talked about this, talking about the shift in Russia's nuclear policy, talking about first use, and I want people to, he asked me prior about Secretary Austin and what Secretary Austin's comments were. And I think that, what Putin did when he fired this missile, he gave what I call the ultimate warning message from Vladimir Putin not to Ukraine, but to the West, to say, hey, folks, look, I have a responsibility. Now I'm putting my feet, which I've had to do for my entire military career, was to put my feet into the boots of our enemies, okay? So my analysis of where President Putin is he's got to sit there with his own people and say, we are going to protect the sovereignty of our country. We are going to protect the safety and security of our citizenry. And I can't allow a nuclear-capable, offensive, provocative weapon to be fired into Russia without some type of response, without some type of adjustment in my military and in my diplomatic posture. If everybody listened to, and people need to do this, you need to listen to the messaging coming out of Russia. And I'm really now speaking to not just, the audience, Alex's great audience. I'm speaking to people at Mar-a-Lago, this unconscious crowd that's in Washington, D.C., part of the deep state, that is going to sit there and go, oh yeah, we're going to keep pushing this thing. We want this thing. Look, folks, we're talking about nuclear war. To even use the word nuclear, this is where, like, I kind of, to me, it's like, okay, slow down, take a deep breath. This is where the world needs to stop and say, look, we're talking about the use of nuclear weapons.
Very similar to what Scott Ritter was saying there. But what did he say? The exchange of nuclear-capable weapons has already been made. This is going to become relevant in a few minutes when I talk about something. Number one, top NATO military chief warns business leaders to prepare for wartime scenarios. That was today. 2 days ago, a leaked 1,000-page report outlines Germany's plans to protect critical infrastructure, prepare civilians and businesses, and mobilize 200,000 military vehicles in case of heightened threats. The preparation follows Putin's revised nuclear policy. Germany is preparing for war. Today, U.S. officials are discussing giving nuclear weapons to Ukraine. Guys, I want you to understand something here. General Flynn just told you what I've been telling you for years. Ukraine already has nuclear weapons. Last week, I was talking to Patrick Byrne. And I said something that you saw his hamster wheel start going in his head. He's like, I said, why do you think Russia went in and immediately took over Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and Chernobyl? Because underneath them are old World War II military installations, which the West and Ukraine have been utilizing to develop new nuclear weapons outside of all nuclear proliferation and international atomic treaties. I've been saying it for years. General Flynn just said right there, the exchange of nuclear weapons has already occurred. Now we're hearing the information that President Biden should authorize Ukraine nuclear weapons. I got a problem with that. This is what should happen immediately. And I'm surprised Donald Trump hasn't done this. President-elect Donald Trump should make a public statement pertaining to the dangerous rhetoric coming from the current establishment and the potential actions of the Biden administration. He should state any transference, future or past, of U.S. nuclear arsenal pursuant U.S. Code 2121 Section C, sale, lease, or loan to other nations of materials for military applications, must cease immediately. Why? Pertaining to 42 U.S. Code 2121 Section C, the president determines that the proposed cooperation in each proposed transfer agreement for the non-nuclear parts of atomic weapons and atomic weapon systems, utilization facilities, or source, byproduct, or special nuclear material will promote and will not constitute any unreasonable risk to the common defense and security of the United States of America. As in, the president of the United States, they have different types of nuclear exchange programs, and they're allowed to give another country a nuclear weapon if the country has sufficient advanced technology that is coming up on the development of the nuclear weapon. And so if they're like, hey, we're like 75% there, we need some help, then they can be like, we'll send one over, send some of our scientists. They can do that. They cannot transfer nuclear weapons to a non-nuclear state if that non-nuclear state is going to utilize it in offense or defense, which could provocate a global nuclear war or bring about threat to the United States of America, which Putin's already warned. If the United States gives weapons to Ukraine, we will be at war with the United States. If those are weapons, if those are nuclear weapons, it's a tit for tat. So legally, President Biden does not have the authority. He doesn't have the authority because, number one, Ukraine is not a nuclear capable nation. Number two, Ukraine is not within any of the U.S. allied treaties that allow for the military crossover of these types of weapons. Three is that the giving of Ukraine a nuclear weapon is an immediate provocation of nuclear war and a threat directly to the national security of the United States of America. Period. Done. That's it. Which means that Congress immediately needs to stand up and say, no. If the Joe Biden administration, if the Department of Defense or anybody in the United States has given or will give Ukraine nuclear weapons, they will be immediately prosecuted under law. Period. Done. And Donald Trump needs to come on public stage and say, if you do this, you're fucking going down. That needs to happen immediately, people. Because this is not a joke. Because if you give Zelensky a nuclear weapon, it will be used. It took him 1 day from the time that they gave him authorization to use ballistic missiles that he used it. So, I'm gonna digress from the nuclear rhetoric, okay? I don't think we're going to go to nuclear war. I don't think there's going to be a nuclear exchange. I think what's going to happen is that NATO is going to preemptively strike Russia, military installations, strategic targets. They're going to wait for a reaction from Vladimir Putin, and it's never going to come. Putin is going to go directly to the international stage. He's going to call a G20 summit. He's going to go to the United Nations Security Council, and he's going to call for an immediate ceasefire and an investigation into the provocation of war with the West and Russia, where Russia never instigated any war whatsoever, and there's going to be an immediate resolution for ceasefire. It's going to be adopted by UN Charter, and that's going to all put into investigation, and that war is going to immediately stop and cease at that point in time. Because if NATO continued to hit Russia after this point in time, they're violating international law, international charter with the United Nations, period. All Putin has to do is be the diplomat. That's it. And I think that's the route he's going to take, because that route right there, if the West strikes Russia, Putin plays the diplomatic card, goes to the United Nations. That calls for the dissolution of NATO. It gives provocation for the dissolution of NATO. Game, set, match for Putin. He wins. Now, if you guys have been on my X feed, I posted something. This is something I haven't talked about in years, since 2020. Dan Scavino posted a tweet yesterday. I found it quite interesting. He said, he did it, Kofe. Quite interesting, Dan Scavino. Now, the question is, I say here, wait till you learn what Kofe really was. Hint, I mentioned it already on my X feed. Operation Kofe. Yes, Operation Kofe. Why FEFE? Donald Trump is the ultimate troll. Here we discuss how several FES cluster-containing proteins activate, support, and modulate the innate immune system response to restrict viral infections. The FEFE cluster, or the FES clusters, are also known as FEFE clusters, FEFE clusters. So, before this, I actually posted this other article right here. Now, I do give a disclaimer. I wonder how many people will read this. And this is in response to another person's post of Donald Trump basically saying that Donald Trump is out of touch with the voters because he's still supporting Operation Warp Speed. Okay. I said, I wonder how many people will read this. He is not out of touch. The comment alone deserves investigation. Donald Trump claims that he saved hundreds of millions of lives during COVID-19 with Operation Warp Speed. The U.S. population has approximately 380 million people, so he is claiming he saved the lives of the entire U.S. population. Yes, he is, and yes, he did. Are there variables here that we're unaware of? Absolutely there are. How do I know what I'm about to tell you is true? This has been a theory of mine for years and well-researched. On the other hand, I have a gift for these things. If I'm wrong, well, at least it's one hell of a good story. If I'm right, then we all owe this man a major debt of gratitude. 2 years prior to COVID-19, a weak virus was released within the densely populated areas of the United States and other parts of the world. If you remember, during this time, there was a virus going around with flu-like symptoms that doctors were clueless to what it was. I know this because my whole family was sick with it. And we went to the doctor. The doctor had no idea what it was, but instead we got Z-Packs. This virus was from the same genetic lineage as COVID-19, but much weaker and not able to cause illness. Why? Kofe. The virus had an inhibitor acted upon it. This virus was released among the population for 2 years prior to 2020. It was meant to create an immune response among the population to lessen the effect of the actual bioweapon that was suspected to be released prior to the 2020 election. If the U.S. population had not already had some type of immune introduction, the actually genetically modified virus, the global death toll would have been magnitudes greater. In September of 2019, a level 4 biolab in Russia was burned down to the ground It was a few days later that Trump signed the EO authorizing the NIH to create the mRNA vaccines, and only a month before Event 201 in the first outbreak of COVID-19. Russia had been monitoring and had clandestine agents inside Ukrainian biolabs since 2016. They were made aware of the creation of a bioweapon that would be released onto the global population. Agents inside were able to smuggle out a genetic prototype of COVID-19 in approximately 2017. They conducted this research in Russia biolab that was burned down in 2019. Russian scientists were able to reverse engineer the virus and make the virus have the effects of nothing more than the common cold or a weak flu. Trump met Putin and Zelensky in July 2018, where the transfer was made. The U.S., through unacknowledged special access programs, generated a highly weakened version and released it to the public to promulgate an immune response. What was that? Operation Kofe. In 2019, 2020, when the virus hit China, the effects were devastating. If you remember the videos, people were dropping dead everywhere. Same thing in Italy. Yet many other places in the world, it was nothing more than a common cold. Why? Viral distribution patterns show that when a densely populated area is infected, the virus will spread around the world if given enough incubation time. Certain parts of the world would be completely missed by this distribution pattern due to the variability of human nature, genetics, and access. In other words, parts of the world that are typically cut off from foreigners would not be in the pattern of distribution. Yet, when the actual virus was released, in those places were targeted, they would have significant higher mortality. In China specifically, and in Italy, it was winter time frame, which means that during those points in time, the amount of travel, tourist travel into those areas was greatly reduced. But when the Chinese population released it on their own people, you had a high mortality rate. Trump authorized this because he didn't, because if he didn't, 85% of the global population would be dead in FEMA camps, and the world as you know it would be an authoritarian hellhole coming out of the pandemic. Here's Trump, Zelensky, 2018 or 2019, with Putin handing him all the information he needed before COVID-19 broke. What do we have coming? What does the deep state have coming? What all these liberal left pundits have coming? Let's listen to Steve Bannon and what he has to say about this.
Guy at the FBI crowned the guy on MSNBC. Oh, it's so terrible. They're going to have to get lawyers. Yeah, you're damn right. You're going to have to get lawyers. You're damn right. You're going to have to get lawyers. You're damn right. You're going to have to get lawyers. You guys are going to be investigated and you're going to be crushed because you're a bunch of criminals and you use state power to try to destroy the populist movement, and you failed. You didn't destroy Trump, and you certainly didn't destroy us. You gave us your best shot. You know what? It wasn't good enough. And now we're coming for you. Today, look at them scramble. Look at these rats leaving the ship. Run everywhere you want. You better be damn sure the United States does not have an extradition treaty, because we're going to extradite you guys back here to stand trial and then go to prison. And I can tell you, coming out of Danbury, prison's not going to be that good for you guys. Nope. Not going to be good for you, Jack Smith. Not going to be good for you, Damian Williams.
Steve Bannon promising retribution. It's an interesting time to be alive, people. Very, very interesting time to be alive. I'm excited to see what comes. I'm putting in the chat shop.redpills.com. You can see that down there if you want to visit our merch store. You can help support everything that we do here at the Red Pill Project, shop.redpills.tv, as well as our Substack, where you can get in on our premium content. Tonight's daily brief will be posted here shortly, so I hope you guys check that out, and I will send social notifications out there for that. So check out our Substack. And then also, if you're interested in cryptocurrency, if you're interested in getting into cryptocurrency, if you go to redpills.tv, I am offering now a 1 hour crypto consultation. This probably sometimes it might even go over an hour. I've had a lot of people ask for this, so that's why I'm putting it out there. If you go to the top menu right here, you're going to see crypto consultation right at the top. You just click on that, and it's going to tell you all about our crypto consultation and our crypto mastermind, including instructions how to sign up on the Social Red Pill. But you can go in here and you can schedule your crypto consultation. Just click schedule today. And that's going to take you to our Shopify store, where you'll see our crypto consultation. You can go in here and book your date and time. of your appointment, and it's all automated and taken care of. And so if you want a crypto consultation to help you get into cryptocurrency, I cover everything, people. So just a quick overview: introduction to cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, smart investment practices and strategies, overview of crypto language, crypto exchanges, wallets and transactions, storage, security, maintenance, over the top crypto projects, future investment potential of crypto markets, setting up accounts, funding your accounts, and purchasing your first crypto, guidance, assistance, and answering your questions along the way. Plus, you'll get my personal number, so you'll be able to text me, ask any questions you want. And so if you want to get involved in cryptocurrency, now is the time. I assure you, now is the time. As well, if you want to support us, redpills.tv, go check that out as well. redpillproject.substack.com, guys. Thank you so much for all the support. Appreciate all you guys. Don't forget, smash those like buttons. That is the best level of support you can give. Smash those like buttons. Much love, respect. God bless, guys. Take care. Have a great night. I'm going to see you guys. Well, I won't see you tomorrow, but you'll see me, Alpha Warrior, and General Flynn tomorrow. Much love, respect. God bless. Take care. Have a good night. See ya.
Spoon, that's impossible. Only try to realize the truth.
What truth?
There is no spoon.